She's like, I'll see you at the board meeting.
Okay.
Oh.
And Pete as well. We're just trying to have the
Let's do this. Good evening, gentlemen. It is 7:01 on Monday, April 13th, 2020. I would like to call to order the regular board meeting for the Othello School District Board of Directors meeting. We will commence with the flag salute. Hopefully there's something near you where we can do this. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we would I want to welcome everyone and thank you all for being here. I gotta, first of all, thank you. Again, appreciate you guys for your disposition. Everyone who's on this call or on this meeting. If there's members of the public that are here, or if you're listening on YouTube, thank you very much. We appreciate the fact that you're still interested in listening to our meeting. Having said that, I will entertain a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
I would actually like to move that we add student reps under board member discussion, student rep discussion. I failed to confirm whether they were going to be able to attend and participate or not, and they would like to.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of student rep participation. Can I get a second?
I will second that.
Very good, thank you, Ken. We have a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the student rep discussion. We have a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0. Is Lindsay on yet? Okay. Okay, moving on. Do we have any public comment, Chris? I know we had a phone number available. All right. Item 2, board member discussion. We have a legislative report. Is what is on there? Do we have a report?
Yes, so legislative report. I was notified by the state that the governor did finally sign the comprehensive sexual education bill. I can't remember all of the letters in front of it, but 5395, I think. So anyways, that has taken place. Also, I wanted to read a news release from the Washington State Board of Education, and you can find this on sbe.wa.gov. It's about the flexibility for graduating seniors approved by the state board. Excuse me, they had an emergency rules meeting and then approved this on Wednesday, April 8th. So I'm just going to read this news release. At a special board meeting, April 8th, the State Board of Education adopted emergency rules that allow school districts to apply for greater flexibility in awarding a diploma to high school seniors impacted by closures. The new rules are effective for the class of 2020 immediately. They allow public school districts, charter schools, and tribal compact schools approved by the board to waive certain state graduation requirements for individual students. To be approved, districts must make a good faith effort to give students opportunities to complete credits for high school graduation. The Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, or OSPI, gave districts guidance on how to offer students these opportunities. The waiver is an extra tool districts can use to make sure students graduate after the COVID-19 school building closures. In this difficult time, our state students come first, said State Board of Education Chair Peter Meyer. By adopting these rules, we considered the many high school students who otherwise would face great limitations due to this historic pandemic. These new rules give flexibility to let school districts support students now while honoring the student work done before school buildings closed. And so there are applications that will be available online. I think that Dr. Hurst is addressing parts of this, how our district is dealing with this in the superintendent reports, but I just wanted to read that specifically, that it came from the Washington State Board of Education and some of the effects that it's having on us today. That's all I have from my legislative report. Any questions?
No, I just want to thank you, Jen, for staying on top of that. Although it's not on the agenda, I think it's something that shortly here we should have a discussion on, and that is our annual board member retreat. Obviously, our situation is, it is what it is. May 4th will be an interesting date. to see if this continues this way or not, or what's going to happen. But something to keep in the back of our minds that we may have our board retreat. We will have it, but it might be at a later date this year. Just something that we can discuss perhaps at the next board meeting.
Great. Thank you for reminding us of that.
All righty. Moving on. I want to thank Elise for being on this Zoom meeting tonight. I asked the student rep mentor to get a hold of them and ask them if they have any. I thought it would be good to get a student's perspective at a time like this as to what the chatter is amongst that, perhaps, or if there's something out there that we need to hear about, perhaps. So, Elise, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
At least you might have to be off. You might have to turn your.
Start talking. Okay.
There we go.
So yeah, thank you for having me. I just, I guess we're turning video on. Okay. I contacted some students and a lot of them are very sad that we can't be at school and having classes. So I asked them for some positive thing that they've had from this no school. So a lot of the kids said that one positive thing is that they get to spend time with their family, because that's not usually something we get to do a lot of during school, and also that they can use their time to learn new skills. And then just one kind of not so good thing that I wanted to mention that a couple students contacted me about was that some teachers are posting so much stuff on Google Classroom at once that it's overwhelming. And so for some of our assignments, it's difficult to find like what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do it by. And that was all I had to say.
All right, thank you for that. I'm sure we can perhaps have a conversation with the folks at the high school to see if there's any clarification needed on how they're communicating their assignments to you guys. Thanks for that, Elise. Again, I appreciate you being with us tonight. Moving on, item C1, I will entertain a motion for the approval of required approvals tonight.
I had a couple of questions on some of the accounts payable before I decide if I want to approve those. So there's 12,000 for microcomputer systems.
You can let
Yes.
Jeanette weigh in.
Yeah, so the microcomputer systems is for headphones and projectors. The headphones are used for mostly for like testing and stuff.
So is that enough for the I assume that every year we get like a certain number of headphones for the entire district, or
It varies. A lot of the headphones are used in the bilingual department. And so those come from the bilingual funds. That's a state program. And so they have a lot of use for the headphones, but we also have some just on hand for other students to use as well.
okay. Pacific Office Automation, $6,000.
That is the first, I believe it's the first payment for our printer management contract.
Oh, okay, that's right. That's the new company.
Yep.
Power School Group, $8,000.
Yes, that's a couple things for HR. So it's an applicant tracking software. So when we post jobs, that's where the job postings go, as well as how people can apply online. And then also something called School Springboard job posting. It's basically like a central platform where schools post their jobs.
Okay. 9,000 to Spokane North Trailers.
That is a cargo trailer. OHS bought a bunch of chairs for like graduation and big events like that. And so they bought a utility trailer to be able to haul them around and store them a little bit easier than trying to find some place in the building.
But it would go under the general accounts payable and not under ASB? You just used the
Yes.
word ASB, so I just wanted to confirm. Okay.
No, I said OHS.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. And then 57,000 to STS education.
Yes, that is for Chromebook management licenses. The per license fee was going up by $5 to $10 a piece. So we bought our licenses early for the Chromebooks that we'll be replacing over the summer.
Okay, so you've actually, even though we're buying them early, it's so that we can get the
Yes.
same pricing as last year.
Exactly.
And then last one under ASB funds, $6,000 to Holiday Inn.
That is for state wrestling rooms.
Okay, all right,
I had a question.
go,
Oh, sorry.
go.
I was wondering, for US Foods, did we buy a bulk of food or is that just from the 1 month? Or is that to carry us through for breakfast and lunches for a while?
Let me check. So I believe we pay them every accounts payable. Yeah, we pay them every month, I believe, because there was, I believe they bought out another company or something. And so I think there was some transition in the invoices. And so it's about a month, probably a month and a half or so of invoices that is in this check run. That's why it's a little bit larger. And just the timing, we do pay them twice a month. It was probably just the timing of the invoices, especially with the school closure, that kind of put a hitch in our process a little bit, but it's pretty normal that those bills are pretty high.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that since school wasn't going, we would see a little bit of a lower amount.
Yeah, we will over time. We will see a slightly lower amount because we aren't serving as many meals.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I move that we approve the required approvals.
Okay, there's been a motion made by Director Stevenson to approve required approvals. Can I get a second?
I will second that.
All right, seconded by Director Johnson. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on, I'll entertain a motion to approve April 2020 early account payable warrants 2.
I move that we approve accounts payable warrants 2.
Thank you, Director Stevenson. We have a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Very good. So there's been a motion by Director Stevenson to approve motion or the 2020 early accounts payable warrants 2. Just for the public, this is on a separate item because it has payment to one of our directors. So in the spirit of transparency, we have decided to make that a separate item. All those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed?
And for the record, I will have to abstain.
Very good. Motion carries 3-0 with 1 abstain. Thank you. Moving on, item C3, superintendent informational items. There is an extended closure plan update. Don't know if you want some time to explain that, Chris. Okay, very well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Board President. Just like to share with the board and with the public where we are on several fronts regarding our extended school closure plan. I would first like to ask Talia to bring up an email from a conversation that's been happening with Terry Kessie, who is an assistant superintendent at our ESD, which is our educational support district that provides support for our particular series of districts in our region. And in this email, what it describes in the second paragraph is a conversation that is taking place at the state level. And just to let the board of directors know, all superintendents, all 295 of us across the state, we meet with Chris Reckdahl once per week. All superintendents within ESD 123, we meet 3 times per week. We have increased our meetings because, of course, these are unusual times and there's a lot to discuss, a lot to collaborate around, a lot to plan. One of the things that Chris Reckdahl has been very clear from the start is, since this is an unusual time, this is not a sprint, and that we are to pace ourselves. One of the things I just want to just share with the board, every district across the state, they're planning, they're collaborating, they're working with their ESD superintendent as well. And it will look different from each ESD, but Chris Reckdahl has also made it very clear that a lot of these decisions are local decisions. So what that really means is that it's going to really look different at each district as well. So first, what I wanted to share with the board and with the public is just a caution. Just be very careful with looking at other districts and where they are, because these are unusual times. Everyone is in different places. However, I can share this assurity with you that we are precisely where we need to be. A lot of districts are waiting for feedback from Chris Reckdahl and his staff. We are waiting for feedback as well. Some districts have opted to just jump out and do things on their own. And not saying anything against those districts, that's up to them. But I want to share with our board, we're precisely where we need to be. But this email shares, and I'll read a portion of it. It says, in the second paragraph, I think it supports what Joel, who's an executive director at WASA, Joel said about pushing pause a little bit and then giving yourself some grace. So one of the messages that was very clear from Chris Reckdahl is, one, don't sprint into this. Take your time to develop a system that's going to work for our kids. And of course, we do know that we're looking at distance learning. That has been our directive. So we have been very thoughtful in the process, and kudos to all the teachers, staff, district staff that has been working on providing a quality distance learning program. He goes on to say also in that next sentence, it also supports what Darcy, and Darcy is our ESD superintendent, it also supports what Darcy explained about developing relationships in order to get more voluntary engagement from students. So this is what's happening. Some of those superintendents in schools that have just jumped out there, they're finding out that students aren't responding to the teachers. So they have this distance learning program or process in place. However, students aren't connected with the teachers. Students aren't returning homework. They're not responding. And not saying this just because they jumped out there, but some of the superintendents that have shared with me, certainly that is the case. And they're trying to figure out, what are other districts doing? Well, I can share with you what we're doing is we're being very thoughtful in creating a sustainable system. And what they have outlined is exactly what we are doing, they being ESD 123. So what they have said is, one, take time to create your system. Be very thoughtful in the process. That's what we have done. Next, they've said, make sure that you prepare for learning. So in that preparing for learning, make sure that you're planning for content, making connections with making connections with students, making connections with those parents. That's what we're doing this week as well. And then they said, now you've established those relationships with the parents, you've started to engage with the students as well. Now, after that, then planning for learning. So we've actually done that very thoughtful process. So I just wanted to share with the board and with the public, it's very important that you understand that these are unusual times. Everyone is in a different space. I do ask and caution us against comparing ourselves to other districts, that we just don't do that. We are actually in a great spot. And with that said, I think I'll just continue sharing with you, here's where we are as a district. So this is a letter that was sent out to our families. I'm gonna go off of it a little bit and just talk about Chris Reichdahl's 5 priority. Our state superintendent, from the start of this, he has said, here's what we want you to do. All 295 of you, all the 295 superintendents, we want you to provide meals. We're doing that. We're providing 300 meals per day. Today, we would have served about 48,000 meals to our students, a little bit more than that. His second priority was childcare. We started off with childcare. We saw that there was not a need, so we discontinued childcare. His third priority was providing graduating seniors content. So initially, we did want to make sure that we got some information out to the seniors. There was a lot of work behind the scenes about planning credits, who are the students, what credits they need, the number of credits. There was a lot of conversations with administrators, district office staff, teachers, and counselors around that piece. And we actually have a great working document of where each student is, and really trying to support their needs and provide them with the content that they need. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. His fourth priority was offer learning opportunities, which means for all of our other students, K through 11. Initially, again, we started off by providing packets of information, but now planning that very thoughtful system and getting feedback from OSPI, our state superintendent, on how this should really look, that we really develop those relationships, we plan the system, and then we plan to teach. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And his fifth priority was continue payroll for employees, but also with the caveat of ensuring that we're providing meaningful work for those employees. So not just paying individuals, but ensuring that they're working as well. So we've really taken the feedback from OSPI and the state superintendent and the governor very seriously. I'm proud of our team for the work that they've done, and they've done an outstanding job of implementing all 5 of those priorities. So now I'm gonna go into the specifics about what we've been doing with distance learning. As I said, initially we started off with packets, and we actually have all this information on Facebook and linked to a website as well. We've had pickups at distribution sites. We've actually now have pickups at MMS that will go into tomorrow, because now what we have is our teachers this week is planning. They're planning for that distance learning model that I was just sharing with you, that ESD 123 and the state superintendent have provided some feedback to us on. So those packets still can be picked up to the 14th at the bus loop at MMS. For K through 8, packets are also available online. When you go online, you'll be able to see by grade level, and you'll be able to click on the icon and you'll be able to download that packet. 9 through 12 students, they're able to log on to Google Classroom, see the assignments from the teachers, and then interact with their teachers through Google Classroom. Moving forward, there's a very detailed process that we're going through. And again, this goes back to pacing ourselves and really taking time to engage with families and with students. The question may be, well, I've not heard from my teacher at this time, but this is the week that we have intentionally planned for those teachers to really sit down, start planning content, start planning delivery methods, and then start engaging with the parents and the teachers. So that will happen this week. So I assure you that is something that's going to happen with all of our teachers for every single parent student. Also, we have that will be posted online. Not only are they planning, but there are assignments that will be given to our students, and there's time requirements. And these are going to be posted online that our students should be spending each night for their homework. So pre-K, they should be spending 30 minutes for their homework. each day. Grades K through 1, 45 minutes. Grades 2 through 3, 60 minutes. Grades 4 through 5, 90 minutes. And grades 6 through 12, 30 minutes per teacher. Where does this come from? Again, there's a lot of collaboration around the state, and we're using Kansas as a model, a framework from Kansas. So these times are research-based and have come as part of feedback from our state superintendent from OSPI. So that's this week. They're planning for the content to be delivered to the students. And then the week of the 20th, you'll actually see, as I share with you in our conversations throughout our ESD, that next week is when you'll see the implementation or it's happening. So that's what I wanted to share with you about distance learning. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about grading. So this has been a big conversation across the state as well. It's been ongoing since we have been in this process, in this unusual time. And here's the direction that we have received. One, it's a local decision, how we're grading. What I do know, what I can share with the board and with the public is that what's been shared with me by the state superintendent is across the board, most districts are opting to issue a pass or no credit instead of issuing grades. We have opted to issue grades. So what does that mean for OSD? It means that we have to wait for some direction. Again, these are unusual times, and I ask that we remember that we're not going to operate like a typical normal school day where we can just process things very quickly. What we have been assured by our state superintendent is that he has a subcommittee working this week where they are going to provide guidance to those districts who are opting to give grades. And he's going to share with you, here's some feedback on how you can do grades if you opt to do grades. And again, OSD is one of those districts that are opting to give grades during this distance learning process. Technology, wanted to just share with you. We had a tremendous experience in issuing out our Chromebooks and insurance to our families that happened this week with our K through 8 students. I would say any parent or any board member, if you know of any student who's having difficulties or has a Chromebook that is experiencing some problems, I ask that you reach out to the district office and we'll make sure that we get you to the appropriate person in technology. Nutrition services, I will share with you, again, I'm so proud of our staff in this area. I've seen our staff put together the food, the breakfast and the lunches. And again, we have been distributing about 3,000 meals per day. So that puts us right at 48,000. So kudos to all of our staff, transportation, custodial, and kitchen support staff. Amazing job. We also highlighted in this letter school activities. School activities, of course, during this time, school closure, throughout the 19th, unless we hear otherwise from the governor, from Chris Reykdal, everything is canceled. Everything is postponed. That includes all facilities, except for as deemed by Chris Reykdal and our governor. For summer school, this has been a big conversation also amongst superintendents. We are waiting for more guidance from our governor on summer school and, to be honest with you, funding as well for summer school. And that includes feeding our kids. That has been a big question on whether we will be able to sustain that through the summer. And again, we're waiting for guidance from the governor and from Chris Reykdal on that one. For our high school seniors, I want to speak specifically about graduation ceremonies. We're certainly excited, but we do know when we publicize that it will be different. We're excited that you're almost at the end of your journey, your 13 years, walking across the stage. May not be walking across the stage this year, but I can assure you, as we posted on Facebook, we are committed to providing an experience that you will remember. State superintendent has asked all superintendents to be creative on what they're doing for our students, our seniors, and end of the year activities to include yearbook distribution, to include a graduation, and include prom. And we are thinking about those activities seriously, and we'll be bringing that information back to our board and back to our community, and soliciting input from our students as well. We want you to be part of this conversation. The governor has shared that he will continue to look at the epidemiology of the virus, and if there are opportunities for us to have schools come back in session for a week or two, then we'll receive that word from the governor and from Chris Reykdal, and he says there may be an opportunity to hold an in-person graduation. However, he has asked all superintendents to plan for a virtual or some other experience for our students. So we just want to make you aware, students, that we are aware and we understand that this is very important to you, and we're working really hard to create a nice plan B, and we hope that we can go with the plan A. I wanted to also follow up on the credits. So we do understand that there was a policy that was put forward to the board, policy 2418. This policy would allow the opportunity to waive 2 elective credits, not core credits, but 2 elective credits on a case-by-case basis for DOHS students and OHS students. It applies to both of them. And again, our counselors already have a working document that spells out all of our students, their needs, and their credits. Our teachers are working really hard to support our seniors, and we'll use that and apply that policy if need be, if those students need those credits. But we do have a responsibility, as stated, to make sure that we do everything possible to make sure our students earn their credits. So that is my report, Board President. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Chris from anyone on the board members?
I just want to say thank you for all of that clarification and going into in-depth details about all kinds of different things, including going back to the credit waiver and all the other details. You've covered all of the questions that I had, so I'm good.
Thank you.
I do have a question. This is for Chris, and I don't know who his committee is or if there is one on graduation, but I had somebody tell me that we should talk to somebody who graduated from Mount St. Helens. Apparently there was no graduation then either. I can't remember. I was doing shooting here in Nebraska when that happened. But if that's true and there wasn't, maybe somebody from then that can give us some experience.
Mike, actually, I graduated that year. And of course, you knew Mount St. Helens were up to May 18th, and we got out of school 3 weeks early. We did have a graduation, but it was inside the gymnasium. I kind of just dated myself a little bit right there, but yes, I was a class of 1980, Mount St. Helens year when we got out of school early.
And I will say, I know Pete is on also, so I know he's listening, so he's taking notes. And I will say also, just to make everyone aware, we understand how sensitive of a topic this is. And I know many people have probably shared with board members some really great ideas. I will share with you as superintendent of Othello School District that we really take our direction also about this particular topic from the governor, and whether or not we can have an in-person type of ceremony. So if he allows it, then that's certainly what we want to do. But we are planning a plan B. So we'll take all that in consideration.
Are you having any other questions for Bruce? All right, thank you for that update, Chris. Appreciate it. I think that gives some clarity to members of the public as well. I want to just say thank you because I have seen your team at work. I got a lot of idle time driving around town here, wasting gas that I shouldn't. I see activity at all buildings. I see several cars here at any given time of the day, and I know that you folks are looking out for us. So I want to thank you and your entire team for that, Chris. Moving on to item D1, assurance of organization performance. We have a
really quick, Mike.
Yes.
I don't know if it's my internet, but I can't hear you very good. Is anyone else having that problem?
There's a lot of, Mike, with your camera or your video audio sound, with your sound, there's a lot of like background echo kind of a thing. And Chris's was like that for me too.
I think it's a matter of him or I being muted when the other's speaking, and I apologize if I wasn't muted or whatever. Again, Chris mentioned when he was talking that these are uncertain times, and this is part of it, but I do apologize. Lindsay, don't know.
It still is a little bit gargly, but I can hear you a little bit better.
Okay.
Maybe it's my internet though. Can you guys hear me? Maybe it's my internet that's making it so that I can't hear you very good.
Okay, I'm getting indications over here that it might be your internet. On YouTube it is fine, but
Okay.
I will speak slowly. If you can hear, just let me know. This is part of these uncertain times, and we'll go as slow as we have to, or do whatever we gotta do. And if you can see me look
Lindsay,
into
I
the
can
side
hear
or
you
wherever.
fine. Lindsay, I can
That-
hear you fine. So
Okay. We have a monitoring report for EL 15. Does anybody have any questions on that before I ask for a motion to approve? Or accept, excuse me. Having heard none, I will entertain a motion to accept the monitoring report for EL 15.
I motion to accept
Okay.
monitoring report for EL 15.
We have a motion by Director Prowse. Can I get a second?
I thought that Ken said something, but if he didn't second, then I will second.
No, I will second that.
All
I
right.
do have a comment afterwards though, too.
Very good. We have a motion to accept the monitoring report for EL 15 made by Director Prowse, seconded by Director Johnson. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Go ahead, Ken.
I just actually on both of these monitoring reports, with the circumstances that we're addressing now, these reports will look significantly different next year. And I know we're going to have to either adjust or we're going to have to do some work with the policies in order to adjust to new circumstances of these new ages and new times that's going on now that we never thought would ever occur.
I think that that's a very good point, and I want to, before we even get into our board response to the monitoring reports, at any time, I think one of these policies, we've always looked at them as a whole group, but at any time, one of these policies could become so prevalent that and so essential, like technology. A month ago, technology was just a report that was important, and now it's essential to all education. Same thing with something like safety. If there was, heaven forbid that it never happens, some kind of mass event at one of our schools, of violence or something along those lines, that report could be not just report, but that policy becomes forefront of our entire lives for the next year, just like technology is technically right now. I think that we need to, like Ken said, maybe relook at these at different times and think if there was another apocalyptic event like we're in now, is this policy at the point that it could run our entire education potentially?
I think that would be a good topic when we have our board retreat, guys. I think we can spend quite a bit of time on that, on this discussion.
I think, Mike, you're right. I think that's a great place for that.
Okay.
I agree too.
Okay. We have board response to monitor reports. EL 12 is where we'll start. EL 12 is the technology. I will read the question and give our answers. Question number 1 was provided board a copy of the most recent comprehensive technology plan that directs the outcomes and priorities for the expenditure of technology resources. There was 4 answers. They were all in compliance. Question number 2, a failure to establish written expectations for use of technology by staff and students. 4 answered, all in compliance. Question number 3, a failure to provide professional development opportunities to staff regarding technology. There was 4 answers, 3 were in compliance. 1 was in compliance with an exception. There's a couple of comments. I will read them and then we can discuss if these comments stay or go. The first comment, it says, it's not the fact staff wasn't given opportunity. I feel we have not stepped up soon enough to help the students in OSD. After the meeting at OHS, staff asked that we have planned what we have planned in case of emergency. Several mentioned they just didn't feel OSD took steps ahead of time to see this through. Other school districts had a plan in motion, and as soon as the governor closed the schools down, they immediately had students working with their teachers on a daily basis. The other comment is, although in compliance, I was disheartened to see such small attendance by staff for this aspect. So I, for one, have several observations on comment number 1. I don't know who answered that, but I think the comment doesn't fit the question. The question is specific to providing professional development opportunities to staff regarding technology. In the suggestion or in the comment, I think it turns it. Other districts are mentioned, and we were just told by our superintendent that every district is different. Some rushed into stuff, some are ready, some are prepared in different ways. He has assured us that we are where we need to be. Several mentioned that OSD didn't take steps ahead of time to see this through. I don't want to quote the president today, but he was told to close the economy when there was 0 cases. As far as being prepared, I don't know that this comment fits the question, I guess, is where I'm at with that comment.
Okay, it was me, and the reason is I do understand after his explanations, Dr. Hurst did a good job explaining. I just had a lot of teachers asking me why we didn't have more of an emergency, even in the emergency book of what was going to happen if we ever had a closure on education. So I can take that out.
I think that, not that I'm against the comment, I'm just, I don't think that this is the right place for the comment necessarily. And the second comment, that done by the small attendance by staff, was my comment. And so, I mean, there were very small, like 1, maybe 2 staff members for each campus that attended the trainings. And as I had asked, there were many trainings and opportunities and stuff like that. But, so does that mean, Sharon, also that you were in compliance with an exception vote?
I can change mine to in compliance.
Okay.
I thought, the technology department's done a good job. So it's hard to get this all out. I understand.
And this is where I mentioned in the beginning before these 2 that, when we were provided these reports in the very beginning, everything was good. We never expected to go on what is going on. But 1 year down the road from now, these can surely change. And that's why we got to look at our policies too.
I think the other thing that we need to think about this, this report specifically and all of them is we need to be looking at the entire year. Yes, we are having a very atypical event and everything, but and I actually did all of my responses before the outbreak and before school changed. I don't know if I've changed any of my responses when I thought about, well, this is the whole year, not just this specific event that we're answering these questions for. And after reading some of them, I don't know if or not, but I think that Mike, for this specific one, I don't think we keep either comment, and it is in compliance.
I agree with Jan. Can I get a consensus on that, or a head nod, or?
Good.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Moving on. Question number 4 reads, a failure to assure each student has the opportunity to access the district's online educational offerings at any time. Again, there's 4 responses, and it's the times we're in, I'm sure, that brought about these answers. And I totally understand where this comes from. There was 2 that said in compliance, 2 that were in compliance with the exception. Comments, the opportunity is becoming closer with Chromebooks available now, but we still don't have an active agenda for students yet. I feel we are a month behind. The other comment reads, I understand that this is a huge task to ensure each home of our students have internet access. I can see that progress has been made with buses equipped with Wi-Fi. As I read this, I could go and say, we are giving them the opportunity to access when we're doing some of what we're doing. When we're saying they can come to our parking lot and the access is there. Is that optimal? No. Do we hope to one day everybody at home can have this access? I know that there's several plans in the works. The equipping the buses is a start. Again, this is another tough one.
So my comment is the second one, and I am one of those in compliance with an exception. I did do the response before the outbreak. If you look at my date on the second comment, that was a full month ago. Because only 2/3 of our current student body has internet at home. That is why I marked it as such, and I marked this as a whole year thing. I still feel like it's in compliance with an exception.
Okay, I'm number 1 again. So I kind of still felt like we weren't on top of it as soon as we could, getting the Chromebooks out, or if that was going to be what was happening. So I'll take mine off this time.
You know, and I felt that it was in compliance, but these situations have identified some areas that need to be worked on further, and they are being worked on. I see that. But we also, as our area that we're in, have some hurdles that we have to clear first with high-speed internet and other access. Unfortunately, we're very limited to very few carriers within our county for a lot of people to access good high-speed internet. It's one of the issues I think that are being addressed and will be addressed in the future for any potential problem again.
Sharon, I can understand why you feel the way that you feel, because I have nieces that go to Moses Lake, and it's hard not to compare what they're doing school-wise versus what my kids are doing school-wise. It does feel like, to me, just as a mother, that my kids are a month behind, as you said as you're saying. Like, I understand why you're saying that. I've just had to say to myself, like, they have a different demographic. And to Ken's point, a lot of our community members live in the country. I am a person who is affected by that. I don't have access to high-speed internet. People who live even further out in the country than me have to rely on satellite internet because they don't have any access to any sort of internet provider that's not satellite provided. So there's that, plus our poverty levels in our district. Like, just, there's a lot of hurdles, but I can understand where you're at, because as a mother with small children in the district, I feel like I'm not doing enough, and what do I have access to? And so other parents are feeling the same way of, like, the packets are great, but if my kids buzz through those the first day we get them, what else am I supposed to be working on as a mom to educate my kids? Like, I get it. I really do.
And I think it was educators that contacted me. That's basically is why they're concerned. So I'm relying information out to you from them. But
So you said that you want to change to compliance. I still like mine in compliance with an exception. But we only have 4 votes. So the 5th vote, I mean, technically right now it's 3-1. Even if there's a vote, are we keeping this at an in compliance vote overall?
It will be in compliance, Jen. I think leaving your comment there makes sense, and I don't believe it's a reprimand on anyone. I will take it as an opportunity for improvement. It's something that Chris and his entire team, the IT team for sure, is working on, is aware of. I think your comment emphasizes the severity or the how big this the task that it is. You also commend the progress that has been made, and it's something that's we'll continue to work. Well, just going off what Lindsay just said, will we ever have everybody with access? That may be out of our hands. I don't know. But I think the comment left in this question would just remind us all that is okay. So we will leave this in compliance with one being in compliance with the exception. Does that sound okay? Okay.
That sounds good to me, but overall, it's going to be an in compliance vote with my comments. What I'm saying, just to confirm.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Question number 5, a failure to offer trainings to parents and guardians on appropriate and approved technology uses. All 4 answers were in compliance. So that is EL 12, EL 16, safety of students and staff. Question number 1, a failure to train staff to identify behaviors of individuals that they can to themselves or others, to know when and how to refer those individuals to mental health specialists, and have procedures in place to follow up with the outcome of those referrals. There was 4 responses. They were all in compliance. Question number 2, a failure to identify and implement activities and programs of prevention against potential physical threats to students and staff. 4 responses. They were all in compliance. Question number 3, a failure to consider all options to provide both non-lethal as well as lethal protection for students and staff in each school, including but not limited harming current school district staff. This will include education of our staff, students, and community by experts in the area of options being considered. There was 4 responses, all in compliance. Question number 4, a failure to adopt, display, and distribute to staff, students, and parents a written Safe School Comprehensive Plan that addresses all essential aspects of safety for students and staff. There were 4 responses, 3 were in compliance, 1 was in compliance with an exception. There are a couple of comments. I will read those. Number 1 says, sometimes I believe it's not clear as the true meaning of safety. Many have different views and we should not take that lightly. Jen responded on the 13th, and now that we know that she did this on the 13th, I appreciate all the hard work that went into creating this volume of a plan. I especially appreciate that there was a pandemic plan, even though it stated in the plan that it was no specific, since that it was not specific, I think she meant to say.
Yes,
each pandemic was different. It was great to know that a framework was already present and just details added when one was here.
okay, I'm number 1. I just think many people the safety issue can go so many different ways. Everyone can read it differently. And I just think that I'd like to leave my comment because we shouldn't take it lightly of all the different safety issues there are. If you think that I should put that in compliance and just leave my message, I can do that.
Well, the way it's answered, it is in compliance, Sharon. There's just an exception here.
Okay, so then I just have a comment. I wasn't understanding you could just put a comment in compliance too. I guess I didn't understand that quite well, so sorry.
It's in compliance with the exception, but are there specifics that, I mean, there's different views. I don't know, Chris, how would you respond to that? I mean, as a different view, I don't know if that would help you to.
There's different kinds of safety. I mean, you're talking,
Yeah, but I was asking.
is
Chris,
that just for this particular time that we're talking? That's the problem too, is because we have what we're going through now.
Do you have?
I would just say that from my understanding, that whenever the board drafts a policy, you ask me for my interpretation, I think it's at that time I have the opportunity to define what that portion of the policy means. So I'm wondering when this comes up for policy review, if you can then get my interpretation. And then as I'm talking about safety, it'll be interesting because if Director Schutte is saying that she's getting input from constituents, it's hard for the superintendent to land on a definition that's going to suit everyone. And I think from my interpretation, this is supposed to be the superintendent's interpretation of the word safety, and then the board gets to decide whether that's a correct interpretation, or do I listen to all the stakeholders, including the teachers, to determine what safety is, and then the board gets to decide. Think of, from all that I've heard in the past, I make the interpretation, the board decides whether that's a correct interpretation. I'm wondering if policy review, if maybe I can just get some guidance for that from the board.
Yes, you may. Yes, you will get clearance on that. And I would ask you, and when we come to policy review here, if there was some specific things that were mentioned to you where we need to change it or include it. And once we institute these or we adopt these, the pandemic as a safety issue for one. I don't know.
We're following all those rules correctly right now as they're being brought down from the state. But I thought this was like for the total of everything. It doesn't say it's just for this particular.
Yes.
time.
So when the folks that spoke to you, what specific safety aspects are they referring to that's not referred to in our plan? I guess is kind of where I'm at.
I guess it's just a safety plan of everything at every school of how situations are. I think we'll have to come back later when we're not in a pandemic area and look at the safety. That was one of the one things I really specifically said at the facility meetings, was safety was important.
Yeah, and we can visit this at our annual retreat again. Jot these things down, and we'll come back when we put together an agenda for that. But for the purposes of tonight, what does the rest of the board think? Do we leave both comments there?
I'm okay with my comment not being there. I think that it was specifically, I think that those that hear it got it. I mean, if we want to leave it, I'm fine with that as well. I do still think that they even included a pandemic plan in the whole safety plan. I mean, you can never account for every single situation, but they accounted as much as possible before it happened. And it's the pandemic part that that they're just going to have to fit the details in, because you can't, every pandemic is different. So I had praise for this one. And Sharon, when we next month or next meeting, I can't remember, when we do review this, I think that you need to take some notes so that we can discuss in more details, and maybe our policy to accommodate those different views so that they aren't taken lightly, and so that all of those other and addressed to you, so we can address those. If this current safety policy, it does not address all of that, then we need to figure out how to include that.
And if this is just for a comprehensive plan for just safe schools if there's something happening or if it's all year long? I can see the difference here.
Safe school plan, the plan that we were presented is for the entire year and for the entire safety subject. Now, I hear what you're saying, but I think when we visit this, we will have to get more specific to be able to evaluate Chris on these things. He needs to help himself. Maybe there are, like you say, some things that are missing. They're specific that we are. I know we're not purposely overlooking going in, but maybe not giving attention that it's married to maybe. I don't know if that's kind of what you've been told, but that is something we can revisit. So
Can't right now because we're dealing with this other.
I'm hearing we can approve this in compliance with the exceptions and leave both comments there is what I would say. What do we think?
I agree. You know, I agree. And then because we're going to take a good look at this at our next review of it, and we'll probably even take a really good look at the safety aspect of it too, also again at the retreat, because we're really going to have to look at these further. But I do agree we can leave both comments in now, and because some of the things that are being brought up shouldn't be taken very lightly, as Sharon did mention, and I believe that we're going to address all those. I know we can't hit every single one of them, but there's a lot of them that I think that are being identified now that we could take a look at a little bit deeper and further into.
All right, Jim, you had an additional remark. I think we as a board may need to revise this to include training for students, maybe even parents and families. Do you think at the time when we review this, that we can address some of your concerns there?
Yes, just in hearing reports, it did address some of the training of students and staff, but it's what is the right word? It's not equal across all campuses. It's like Desert Oasis, like they got an amazing training with their students, and that's different than the elementary school, and rightly so, but different even elementary school. You know, we as a board, we need to include somehow some kind of thing that students and also some kind of training is.
Okay. Well, great discussion on those monitoring responses. I don't know, moving on, if I can jump to policy review, then go back to the board self-monitoring. Because that's, I think it should have been the self-monitoring after the policy review. Ken, do we have to rate ourselves before doing a review of this current board policy?
That's something different. That's your GPs. It's the surveys.
Okay, never mind. I was thinking that was our board self-assessment. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All righty, board self-monitoring. President Rose survey. Have this discussion here. Question number one, President's role. Yikes. Monitor board behavior to ensure that it is consistent with rules and those legitimately imposed upon it from outside organization. Conduct and monitor meeting deliberations to ensure that only board issues signed in board policy are discussed. Ensure the board meeting deliberations are fair, open, and thorough, but also efficient, timely, orderly, and to the point. Preside board accordance with the law and modified Robert's Rules of Order. Provide a means of collecting monitoring data from all board members. Collate and present data to the board for discussion and action. 4 responses, 3 were in compliance. 1 was in compliance with the exception. Robert's Rules of Orders is sometimes misunderstood. Even though this policy report refers to the board president, I feel that I have to state that the entire board and thus the president also was out of compliance when we did not go into executive session when a complaint was brought before the board during public comment in reference to a staff member or group of staff. Due to this, I marked with the exception. Okay? Are you
So obviously
referring?
the second comment is mine, and I am the vote that's in compliance with an exception. I think warned you guys that I was going to do this a while ago. So that is my comment.
And mine
I-
is, oops, sorry, Jen.
I was going to say, whoever made comment number one, I'm wanting some clarification.
I think we don't follow through everything that's in the Robert's Rules of Orders, and sometimes we don't understand it too. I mean, we've done some things that we haven't done in the right order, according to the Robert's Rules of Orders, but be the same as number 2, wouldn't it?
Can you give an example, a specific example why we weren't following rules of order?
I think that one of the meetings, I remembered Mike even saying we weren't in one of the Robert's Rules of Orders. I'm sorry, my internet is going in and out. And even when there was conflict, and you have to say before you walk out of a meeting that you have conflict, and people just haven't done that correctly. But I put it in compliance. So if you guys don't like that thing, it doesn't matter to me. We can take it out. I think it's misunderstood. I don't know that we've all really read everything in the Robert's Rules of Orders to understand it fully.
I'm trying to the best of my abilities. I think I remember an instance that Karen's referring to me going into a recess, and I tried to adjourn the meeting instead of going into a recess. That would have been wrong, and it was pointed out by someone. I can specifically remember that, but I think that was just a mistake on my part. I don't think that it makes no difference if the comment is there or not to myself. I think this is, at this time, ensuring the president's role is described for myself, but it's going to be there for future board presidents. So I need consensuses.
Okay, then just take it out of there. Just take it out of there. I'm still learning how they're doing this policy thing, so sorry.
No, that's fine. Okay, we'll make it in compliance.
Mine was in compliance to begin with.
Yes. Do we leave the exception there for Jen?
I did mention that out on another receipt. I still feel like it needs to be there, but I can't voted. So you guys have that one.
I'm sorry, Jen. I heard half of what you said.
I am only one off. I still feel like my comment needs to stay, but it needs to be the rest of you that decide.
What do you think, Lindsay?
I still couldn't hear Jen. I only got like every 4th word.
Me too.
I heard you say, Jen, that you're only one person, but, and then I couldn't hear the rest.
It needs to be
about all I heard
mutual
all
decision. The comments left. It looks like you mentioned that. Any of what I'm saying?
Jen, can I ask if you're referring to what caused that we have the workshop on public comment, the action that preceded that? Is that what you're referring to?
Referring to when it allowed students, parents of those students, to comment about employees.
Again, to the public, I apologize, but this is the day and age. is what we got to go through. I apologize for our technical difficulties. We're having a hard time hearing directions. But I'm okay with her comment there. I understand what she's trying to imply. And I think this will serve for future presidents, board presidents, be diligent. I think this event brought on a training that I think is very beneficial to all of us. So I say we omit comment number 1, but leave it with the exception for the other.
Thank you.
Is that okay for the rest? Can I get nods? Okay. Question number 2, make all interpretive decisions that fall within the topics covered by the board policies and governance process and board superintendent relationship, except when the board specifically delegates such authority to others. Using any reasonable interpretation of the provisions of those policies, refrain from making any interpretive decisions about policies created by the board in the ends and executive limitation policy areas. Refrain from exercising any authority as an individual to supervise or direct the superintendent. 4 responses, they were all in compliance. Question number 3, represent the board to outside parties in announcing board stated positions and in stating decisions and interpretations within the areas assigned to the president, delegating this authority to other board members when appropriate, but remaining accountable for its use. There was 4 responses and they were all in compliance. Question number 4, with the superintendent, plan and approve the meeting agenda. There was 4 responses and they were all in compliance. When necessary, signed documents required by law and authorized by the board. There was 4 responses. 3 were in compliance. There was 1 not in compliance with no comments. I don't know if the not in compliance cares to share why it was not in compliance.
I think we know who or why someone voted not in compliance.
That's what I asked. Did somebody accidentally hit not in compliance, or of those that responded?
Wasn't me.
Okay, we're checking the Survey Monkey. But I think if somebody wanted to vote not in compliance, they would have made a comment.
Yeah, I think we sign up the documents necessary before we even leave the meeting. When they're passed around to us.
I think that must have been some accidental mistake because no one's owning up to it. I say that we're all in compliance, or at least the majority.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say that question number 5 was in compliance and negate this not in compliance vote.
Yes.
Okay. Question number 6, appoint members to board approved committees from the board, or answers 3 in compliance, 1 in compliance with the following exception. Do we have committees? I am not aware of any in the past. What are some of the committees? We did the facilities planning committee, and that was with input from everybody on the board. It does have to be approved. I know we had a committee that the board put together to work on the bond, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that was a board approved committee or not. And I know that the process was followed correctly as well. So those are a couple committees that I can remember off the top of my head.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did get my answer from Jen early, after. I didn't understand what the committee, I didn't know what the committees were. I did ask her.
Okay.
And
So
I found out what the committees were. I just hadn't heard any lately, and I didn't know if there was something,
okay.
committees that I was unaware of at the meetings.
Are we okay
Yeah.
to remove the comment and we continue to vote in compliance without the exception?
Yes,
Okay.
sorry.
Very good. Question number 7. In the absence or inability of the president, the vice president shall have all the powers and duties of the president, or responses all in compliance. Question number 8, in order to maintain its commitment to excellence in governance to the provisions of this policy and improve its own performance, the board commits to the following action. Continue working as a unit, help the board president, closely monitor ourselves and the president in that role. I have no problem with either one of those comments. I think they're good observations. Okay. Moving on. E1. We have some GPs that are there for the final reading. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the final readings of EP 7 and 7.2.
We approve both final readings.
Okay, there's been a motion made by Director Stevenson to approve GP 7.2 final readings. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Krause. So there's been a motion to accept the final readings of GP 7 and GP 7.2. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And I am of the opinion that GP 7.3 stays there till a further date. But I'm just one.
I'm fine with that. That's the next one. That's not a big deal for me.
Okay. I'm seeing Lindsay nod her head. All right, we will table that to the next meeting. All right. There is no need for an executive session tonight. Moving on to item G, upcoming events. There's none there. Is there anything that we need to add there? Anything going on that we should alert the community to, or anything like that? And you always have something in. Okay, moving on. Self-assessment meeting. About Survey Monkey.
I thought we couldn't do Survey Monkey because we're on Talia's page.
Minimize Talia's screen, and you can get to the board docs.
Won't that require us to exit out of Zoom and pull up board docs and to do the Survey Monkey?
I'm getting told it doesn't require to get out of Zoom, Ken, but I'm not your IT guy. How about we don't do this, guys?
I just got a different device than I'm doing the Zoom on.
Can we, Mike, for the sake of this meeting, do them afterwards? After we sign out of this, we can still get onto board docs and do them, and then make them public at the next meeting.
That is a great solution. There, Ken, is everybody okay? After the meeting is adjourned, we go in on the device and do those. And we post the next meeting.
That's me.
Okay. Sharon, are you froze or?
Hey,
It is. Did you hear that part, Sharon? All right. So we will access our device after the meeting and fill out the Survey Monkey. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, public, anybody who's listening, I want to thank you once again. I apologize beforehand for these technical difficulties, but we appreciate your understanding. I'd like to let our community know that we as a district continue to support each and every one of our students. We are working diligently to make sure that we comply with everything that's being handed down to us from the government, federal and state level. I can assure you that our teachers' hearts and minds are in the right place. We'll get through this. We're a strong community, and I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to come out stronger because of this. Some of these areas of opportunity are going to be expanded by the folks in the places that need to tighten these screws. Again, I just want to acknowledge everyone. Some of you saw the video I did with the food services and bus folks. Thank you, teachers, custodians, everyone. I should have started mentioning departments. I want to thank you all very much. Community Othello, let's stay strong. Let's get through this. Let's continue to abide by what they're telling us to do, as frustrating as it's getting for some of us. And let's stay strong through this. Our business is done for tonight, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.